Aha, here we are again. Hello, everyone.
Hi, thank you for being here. Um, Today we decided to sit down and talk a little bit because we have been facing some decisions in our life, and it's not like they are like life changing in a dramatic way, but there's just like a lot of them, and I think we have both been facing a lot of uncertainty. So we decided to talk a little bit about our processes for making decisions, especially ones that are a little bit harder than usual. And yeah, just talk to you a little bit about that. So, Michal, I know that you have a journaling process that you have been using for making decisions. Would you like to share about that a little bit?
Sure. Um, so yeah, it's not even that I have a process that I figured out, but it's more um, a way for me to cope with overthinking that I just recently discovered. So basically, what happens to me is sometimes I just wake up at night, and if there is some kind of agglomeration of decisions that I need to make. Sometimes they just are in the background of my head, and I just wake up at 2 a.m. or something, and there's this noise in my head, like this or that option, and then I tend to be very indecisive. Or I make a decision one day, but then the other day I change completely. No, actually, this is a bad option. I know this is kind of
It's the same for me.
yeah.
I can totally relate.
So this is tiring, and I think this is why recently my energy was quite low, because we had, as you said, not like life-changing decisions, but there was just quite a few things related to our house. So we have to move from where we are right now, and moving to a different house, and which options should we choose. And there's kind of ways of our business that we want to change, and which path should we follow, and few other little things. So it was just kind of a lot of things happening at the same time. So, my journal came in handy, as it often does. So basically, the other day I just woke up and it was like 2 a.m. And I was really feeling like hearing a lot of noise in my head. And I kind of started, as I always do, I check in with my minimalist journaling system, and then I just kind of write like free form text, and sometimes it's one sentence, sometimes it's 4 pages. But I just kind of wrote that down, that I woke up noticing a feeling of attachment towards one of the houses. Uh, but then we were also considering the other house. So I just like went straight into dumping what was in my head, like this confusion about which house we should choose. And then there was something interesting happened, because I noticed that I often get stuck in indecisiveness with swinging my mind between some options back and forth, back and forth. And now I'm here again in this situation. So I noticed exactly as this pattern that's very familiar to me is happening. And what I decided to do is that instead of getting stuck in making a decision, so thinking, okay, should I choose option A or B? Maybe I can reflect on the pattern itself. So just step out of my mind, look at myself, and see how come that I often get stuck in this indecisive pattern. And this was illuminating in many ways. I just kind of made a mind map, I was just like flowing from one option to another. This is just kind of what's intuitive for me. And I've noticed that, well, kind of a few insights came out of it. So first is that there's some kind of expectations that I create about options, but really the truth is that both options will have cons, right? Like, of course, there's pros and cons for each decision, but the thing is, I have a tendency to over focus on the pros and not consider the cons. So this is just something I've noticed as I was brainstorming, and that helped me acknowledge that, okay, so what if I this time I just focus on the negatives, so basically understand what are the minuses of each of the decisions. um, and this brought me a question. Okay, is there a clear deal breaker? So is there one minus that would really make one of the options completely not on the table anymore? And in that case, we're deciding between two houses, and no, both have minuses, but none of them is a deal breaker. Okay. And then what I thought, okay, so let's explore these factors of resistance. And use something that I in a way it's similar to Tim Ferriss's fear setting. So go into the fears and feel okay. So first list the negatives, but the ones that are relevant. And I realized that actually there is just one major negative for both of the options. And okay, there's more than one negative, but really only one of them really feels serious. The rest is just hassle or like some things that are, it's a minus, but I don't really give a shit, to be honest. But I've noticed that, okay, there's two minuses that are kind of significant. And then I ask myself a question. Okay, so let's imagine that I have no choice and I need to pick both, any, like one of these options. So let's first do it for option A. What would I do to mitigate this minus? And and it was so easy, I just thought, okay, yeah, I'll just do this. And then I did the same for the option B, okay, so this is the minus. How would I mitigate it? Oh, I would just do this. And this was, I mean, it's such a basic, simple realization, right? But it really grounded me so much because it just reinforced this idea. It's something that I know, but it's good to reinforce that I'm gonna be okay either
Mm.
way. It doesn't really matter. Like, it's not a big deal. There's always gonna be challenges, and I can always overcome them, and
And did it
it's
help
fine.
you with the actual decision, making a choice?
That's a good question. No, I'm still slightly indecisive, but I've noticed that I have a clear preference for one of the options, and also I feel much more relaxed about this decision. And also, this to add context, just because this is a decision that we both face, so we are moving house, it's not something that I make on my
Mm-hmm.
own. So even if I kind of I cannot just make a decision on my own. I also want you to be happy with a decision we take. So I think this is why it doesn't help me to make a decision, because I still need to consider
Mm-hmm.
you and
I
how
see.
you feel about it. But I think it made me much more at ease with the fact that, what, like, whatever we choose, I'm genuinely okay with that, and I can let go of this option and I can let go of the other, even if there's things that I love about both of the options. But yeah, it was interesting to flip my thinking, and instead of focusing on the pluses, which is my normal tendency, and then what happens, I get attached.
Mm-hmm.
But then the problem is I get attached to both because both have pluses, right? And then I think this is what causes me to get stuck. So I think it was helpful to realize that it just doesn't matter that much what I will choose, and I will be happy in either of the houses. I can be happy. The happiness is up to me, and make the best out of the option that I will choose. Not, it's not a condition attached to the option. So it's not like this option is right, and if I choose a wrong option, I will be unhappy. It's just what I make of it.
I really like that.
How about you? How do you go about your decision making thinking?
Huh. It's a great question. So I don't have like one process that I use all the time. Um, a big part of it for me when it comes to big decisions or when I have like lots of decisions happening at the same time is to bring myself back to a place of stillness so that I don't become overwhelmed with the fact that I have to
Mm,
make so many decisions. Because recently, yeah, with all these decisions, the moving house is just one example. I found myself thinking about it all the time and feeling like I am in a place of such uncertainty and lack of stability that I feel very ungrounded. And and by default, maybe because I'm used to it and because it's easy, my coping mechanism is to hide myself behind um, intellectually stimulating activities like being online a lot and reading random stuff
mm,
and kind of distracting myself in that way. So I find that first bringing myself to a place of stillness and connection with my body and um, for example journaling or just moving a little bit, dancing, um, going for a walk outside, preferably in nature, really helps me to reset and come back to that place from where I can start thinking about how to make the decision where I'm not like super stressed. Probably this doesn't apply to everyone. I don't think everyone gets affected like me. And it's not like I always get affected like this. It's just something that's been happening recently. Probably because I've been having way too much coffee as well, which is another subject. But yeah, something else that I find useful is to try to, I don't know, useful, but at the same time, it's a little bit of a challenge. I was talking with a friend about this recently, which is trying to listen to intuition. And I don't even really know what intuition means, because I know that intuition is based on so many things that we have learned and integrated in the past, that who knows if intuition, whatever you understand by intuition, is the right thing to follow. But I noticed that a lot of times there's these voices coming into my head, and sometimes they come from a place of fear, sometimes they come from a place of ego, sometimes it's just like I reject an option just because it'll probably be very inconvenient, and I just can't be bothered to go through everything that I have to do in order to get there. So I choose the more effortless choice, and probably it's not the one that I'm going to, that's going to be the most beneficial for me, but I'm making that based on the fear of having, too much trouble or too much
Fear of
inconvenience.
hassle.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think an important part for me is to figure out where my preference is coming for, what is dictating what makes me choose a certain option. And I've also been enjoying journaling a lot recently, and just sitting down and just writing about it. And it's interesting because a lot of my day I spend consuming, like receiving input. Even when I'm writing, I am also researching and connecting ideas that are from different places. But when I'm journaling, it's just about outputting what is in my head, both in terms of thoughts but also in terms of feelings, and also how I'm feeling in my body, just writing about everything from this kind of more holistic point of view. And this is, yeah, I find it really grounding and just very useful to get in touch with what is really bothering me or what is really driving me in that situation. So it seems like, yeah, journaling is something that helps us both in this.
I really resonate with what you're saying about this kind of grounding yourself and finding the moment of stillness. I think it's, there is a very clear difference between making a decision in a place of imbalance and being ungrounded, and a place of being grounded and really kind of more relaxed. And I feel this difference. I can tell when I'm grounded and when I feel, in this peaceful state, and when I'm not. And when I'm not, when I'm more agitated, it seems much harder to make a decision. And I think this is exactly due to this noise in my head and this kind of different voices. So yeah, it's much harder to understand which parts of me are saying what, and I just kind of perceive it all as like one big noise. And whichever part speaks the loudest at the very moment, I kind of tend to go with it, because I don't know, like I kind of like to follow my intuition, but it's hard if I'm ungrounded, unbalanced. It's hard to understand which of the many voices is my intuition, and or whatever that means, but which one is really like what my heart desires, and which is more just fear or anger, or fear of hassle, right? Choosing the convenient option,
Yeah.
which is not always a bad thing, maybe not. Like sometimes it's great to just go for the path of least resistance and just do something, but not always. And even if it's good to understand which part is speaking, I really resonate with that. So apart from journaling, do you have any other practices in your life right now that help you come back to this balance and to this state of being grounded?
Yeah, just like sitting outside like we are right now. We have our
Mm,
garden in front of us and the mountain is there
mm,
behind the clouds and our cat was just playing. There's um, this kind of part above us with vineyards and just I don't know, just being in a place that is calmer really helps me.
mm,
Um, with not a lot of stimuli around me, I think this is something that I find I need a lot more in my life.
mm,
And as you were sharing um, listening to these parts and finding where this is coming from, something else came up for me, which is I think before when trying to make decisions, I used to resort a lot more to writing, for example, lists of pros and cons and really
mm,
analyzing it. But now I am finding that I am more interested in which part of me came up with that pro and that con, because otherwise it just becomes so intellectual, so
mm,
disembodied. And yeah, I think in general, I really like this coming back to the body and coming back to the space where I am and preparing like my vessel for a decision that will feel good more than just make sense.
mm. Wow, I love that. And I can also resonate with that. Yeah, I think we're both quite prone to being in our heads.
Yeah, for
So it's
sure.
very important for both of us to ground
Mm.
ourselves. I think for me, what recently I've been experimenting recently with that, and it really works. And it's interesting because it's something that one person who joined one of our courses mentioned, and I liked this idea, but I never really implemented it. And I recently started to try. I recently started to experiment with it, and it's amazing. Like it really helps me ground, and it's to use a candle instead of artificial electric light in the morning and in the evening. So basically, when I go to sleep, when I kind of prepare my room and brush my teeth and set up to go to bed, I set up I light up a candle and I switch off the lights in my room, so it's just candle lit, and it's incredible. Like it really grounds me. It's just so simple. And then I sit down in my bed, I journal a little bit, or I just squat or listen to music, or just be in the state. But the fact that there's this dim light that's kind of like moving a little bit with the fire, it just feels so nice. And there's this nice smell of fire. It's not like a flavored candle with any smell, but just the fire has a smell.
Flavor, you mean scented?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, delicious
That's what
candle.
I mean. Um, and then in the morning, I start my day also with that. So if it's still dark in my room when I wake up, I just start my day with lighting a candle. And this is the first light I see instead of phone or lamp. And it really makes a big difference.
Mm.
It changes everything. Like it's so grounding and so simple. Uh, yeah, it's one of those things that I'm just laughing at myself. Like, how come I never tried this? I mean, something so obvious and easy, and it's not like rocket science. But I just never tried it. I always felt like, oh, whatever, candle. But actually, it really works for me right now. So it's very helpful.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a good grounding
That's
practice.
so nice.
Hmm.
Do you have anything else to add about decision making?
Decisions. No, I think this is really it for that. For now. Um, I hope this was useful and it gave you some ideas. We're of course also curious to hear about your decision making ventures, and if
How
you
do you
have,
choose stuff?
how do you choose, and do you have any practices that you'd like to share, or any things that help you be in this grounded place? We'd love to hear if you feel like sharing, and if not, that's also okay. And have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching.